Imagine serving a combined 19 years in federal prison, convicted for millions in financial fraud, and walking free not because you proved your innocence, but because a single phone call from the president changed everything. That's not a Netflix pitch. This is the reality TV family drama gripping America and raising uncomfortable questions about privilege, politics, and the power of a presidential signature. Todd and Julie Chrisley, reality television royalty, built their empire before millions of viewers. Their show, Chrisley Knows Best, promised an all-access pass to luxury, laughter, and family chaos. But behind the glittering facade, prosecutors say the Chrisleys wove a web of deception that left banks, the IRS, and even their fans stunned. In 2022, a federal judge handed down a jaw-dropping sentence: 12 years for Todd, 7 for Julie, convicted on charges ranging from tax evasion to bank fraud, all swirling around $36 million in illegal gains. For over a year, the Chrisleys' story seemed destined for ignominy. Their once glitzy lives were replaced by prison routines and headlines laced with scandal. And yet, in a twist worthy of reality television's finest moments, the narrative veered in a totally unforeseen direction. Donald Trump, the former and possibly future President of the United States, picked up the phone. He called their daughter Savannah as she shopped for groceries. The message? "I have pardoned your parents." Cue tears, disbelief, and a media maelstrom. Overnight, the Chrisleys became symbols of hope, outrage, or something more complicated, depending on whom you ask. Was this a rescue of innocent victims, targeted for their beliefs, or just another billionaire bending the rules for his own? Let's rewind, unpack, and ask, what really happened, and what does it mean for the future of justice in America? To understand the drama, let's step back to where it all began. Todd and Julie Chrisley weren't always household names. Their ascent to fame started in the mid-2010s with Chrisley Knows Best. Audiences tuned in to watch Todd's quick wit, Julie's southern charm, and the family's extravagant lifestyle: luxurious cars, sprawling mansions, designer wardrobes. For nearly a decade, the Chrisleys seemed to live the American dream in high definition. But was it all smoke and mirrors? Federal prosecutors certainly thought so. In one of the most high-profile white-collar cases of the decade, the Chrisleys were accused of submitting falsified financial statements to secure over $30 million in personal loans. These weren't loans to expand a business. They were, according to prosecutors, used to bankroll luxury aisles, shopping sprees, and real estate investments. Simple greed, claimed the government. The Chrisleys' problems didn't stop at the banks. Despite raking in millions from their show, they allegedly hid much of their income from the IRS, dodging nearly $500,000 in taxes. Between 2013 and 2016, they failed to file returns altogether. Prosecutors painted a damning picture. The Chrisley empire was built not on hard work, but on lies and manipulation. The Chrisleys have built an empire based on the lie that their wealth came from dedication and hard work, federal prosecutors argued in court. When the verdict came down, the sentences were staggering. Todd would spend more than a decade behind bars. Julie, 7 years. On top of that, they were ordered to pay millions in restitution. For fans, it was a gut punch. For critics, it was justice served, proof that even celebrities weren't above the law. Yet things were never so simple. Even as Todd and Julie began their sentences, cracks appeared in the story. Their daughter Savannah, barely 25, became the face of the family's fight for freedom. She cared for her younger siblings, rallied public support on social media, and courted influential allies, including, crucially, the former president. In countless interviews, she insisted her parents were not criminals, but victims, targeted because of their conservative beliefs, unfairly singled out by a system that punishes dissent. Their supporters seized on every inconsistency. Was the IRS out for blood? Was the case politically motivated? Their lead attorney, Alex Little, declared, "President Trump recognized what we've argued from the beginning. Todd and Julie were targeted because of their conservative views." The implication was clear. This wasn't just a courtroom battle. It was a political war. But the facts remain harsh. The Chrisleys' convictions weren't a partisan fever dream. Multiple courts upheld the verdicts. Federal appeals judges pored over thousands of pages of evidence. While Julie's restitution was later reduced from $17.2 million to $4.7 million, the essential facts didn't change. They had, the court said, deceived banks and the IRS on a massive scale. Outside the courthouse, headlines simmered. The family's story was everywhere. Podcasts dissected the trial. Legal experts sparred on cable news, and fans campaigned on Twitter under hashtags like #FreeTheChrisleys. Their reality show, canceled in the wake of the scandal, was replaced by a new kind of spectacle, a real-life legal odyssey that captured America's divided imagination. For the Chrisleys themselves, prison was a harsh new world. Todd reportedly took an administrative job as an assistant to the chaplain at his minimum security prison, helping set up religious procedures for Christian, Jewish, and Muslim inmates. That ended abruptly, and rumors swirled about favoritism, discipline, and his interactions with other inmates. Julie, meanwhile, served her time in Kentucky, worlds away from red carpets and reality television arcs. And then, with little warning, the game changed. Donald Trump's decision to pardon Todd and Julie Chrisley shocked even seasoned political observers. He had never met the couple. His only direct connection was their daughter, Savannah, who had campaigned for her parents and appeared alongside Trump's family on television. Yet, in a move that some hailed as an act of mercy and others derided as cronyism, Trump wielded his presidential power to end their sentences. The news broke in the most American way possible, as a viral Instagram announcement from Savannah, who could barely contain her disbelief and joy. "The president called me personally as I was walking into Sam's Club and notified me that he was signing pardon paperwork for both of my parents. So, both my parents are coming home tonight or tomorrow. I still don't believe it's real. I'm freaking out." Supporters celebrated. Detractors seethed. Whispers of backroom deals and paybacks flooded the airwaves. Was this a rare correction of a deep injustice, as Alex Little put it? A recognition that the Chrisleys had been unfairly targeted for their beliefs? Or was it, as one CNN legal analyst put it, a glaring example of how fame and fortune can tip the scales of justice, even at the highest levels? Even White House spokesperson Harrison Fields weighed in, insisting the president was pleased to give well-deserving Americans a second chance. But what about the banks left stuck with unpaid debts? The IRS, denied almost $500,000 in taxes. The vast audience who watched week after week believing the Chrisleys' version of the American dream. The questions didn't stop there. What does a high-profile pardon like this say about our justice system? Is executive clemency meant for correcting genuine miscarriages of justice, or just another perk for the connected and the famous? As civil lawsuits loom and the Chrisleys reportedly plot a return to television, Lifetime, ever the opportunist, already announced a new unscripted project featuring the family. Can they really rebuild their reputation and business empire? Or will this forever be their most infamous legacy? Let's not forget the bigger picture. The Chrisleys case is just the latest in a string of presidential pardons that have targeted celebrities, political allies, and headline-grabbing cases. From Lil Wayne and Kodak Black to controversial political operatives, Trump's use of this power has sparked debate about fairness, transparency, and the rule of law. This pardon raises questions about the fairness of the justice system when wealth and fame are involved, said one legal analyst on CNN. It's hard to imagine an ordinary citizen with no connections and no celebrity receiving the same mercy. Meanwhile, there's a real toll in dollars and trust. The Chrisleys still face potential civil litigation for the millions in damages allegedly owed. Their sudden release also brings fresh pain for everyone still waiting for justice after being harmed by white-collar crime. So as the cameras roll and the headlines churn, we're left with a knot of questions. Is this a story of redemption or of power abused? Will the Chrisleys become cautionary tales or comeback kids? And, looking beyond the family drama, what does this moment mean for the future of the American legal system, especially when money, fame, and politics collide? The answers are far from clear. In the second half of our story, we'll dig into the aftermath, the impact of the pardon, the battle for the Chrisleys' public image, the fallout for victims and the justice system, and whether the rules really are different for the powerful. But for now, as Todd and Julie Chrisley step back into the spotlight, freed by fiat but not by forgiveness, we have to ask, what happens when celebrity, crime, and presidential power collide? As the news of Todd and Julie Chrisley's presidential pardon settled in, the reactions were instant and explosive. The Chrisley supporters rejoiced, flooding social media with messages of vindication and prayers answered. But for many others, the story was just beginning, a new chapter crackling with intrigue, questions, and consequences yet unseen. After such a spectacular rise, dramatic fall, and now this almost cinematic return, what lies ahead for the Chrisleys and for American justice remains anything but clear. The Chrisleys themselves wasted no time stepping back into the spotlight. Within days of their release, headlines announced their return to reality television. Lifetime greenlit a new series starring the family, this time with Chase and Savannah as executive producers. Early teasers promised both behind-the-scenes emotional reckoning and the same flashy family antics that made them famous. But will audiences tune in for a comeback or turn away from a family now defined as much by scandal as Southern charm? For the Chrisleys, this is a shot at redemption, or at least reinvention. Some PR specialists argue that America loves a comeback, especially if it's packaged with drama, tears, and talk of lessons learned. It's the classic narrative arc, fall from grace, struggle, and a hopeful new beginning, explained crisis management consultant Rachel Marks for Variety. That's why networks are willing to take the risk, but trust is fragile. One misstep, and the public could snap back to outrage. Yet not everyone is convinced. Corporate sponsors and advertisers have grown warier in the post-Me Too era, and the stigma of fraud is hard to shake. This puts the Chrisleys' future earnings and partnerships in jeopardy. Financially, the pardons may have wiped away criminal penalties, but the couple are not out of the woods. Civil suits from victims or creditors, once paused during their incarceration, may now move forward. Todd and Julie may also still face difficulties recovering seized assets or rebuilding their wealth. For the justice system, the repercussions ripple far wider. On one hand, supporters of the pardon argue it rebalances a case where fame may have made the Chrisleys targets. Others counter that the pardon proves, once again, that fame and connections can tilt the scales of justice, rendering the rules different for the rich and the well-known. Legal experts warn that this case could set a new precedent. High-profile figures, convicted on strong evidence, finding their punishments erased if they can rally enough attention and political support. As legal analyst Marcia Gordon told CNN, the Chrisleys' pardon will be studied in law schools for years as an example of how executive power can override the painstaking work of juries and judges. That's both fascinating and, frankly, a little scary. There's also the question of the victims. In their rush to celebrate the Chrisleys' homecoming, the media and public have largely ignored the individuals and businesses who lost millions to the couple's fraudulent schemes. Will they ever see restitution? Or will the glare of the cameras and the sweep of a president's pen mean their losses are, once again, brushed aside? Looking at the bigger picture, the Chrisleys' story exposes deep tensions in American attitudes toward crime, punishment, and celebrity. When reality stars can secure the kind of mercy that thousands of less famous convicts never receive, it's no wonder that public trust in our justice system wavers. A Gallup poll taken after the pardon showed faith in federal courts at a record low, with many respondents citing the Chrisley case by name. But the consequences run even deeper. The use of presidential pardons in high-profile entertainment cases isn't new, but each instance adds fuel to the debate over what clemency powers should really be for. Should they correct genuine injustices, or reward fame, loyalty, or connections? For politicians, the Chrisleys' pardon is already a campaign talking point, proof, depending on your side, either of compassionate leadership or of a system rigged for the elite. For the Chrisley family, every move is now under a magnifying glass. Their business ventures, charitable donations, even their Instagram posts are dissected for signs of true remorse or ongoing entitlement. And for other reality stars, entrepreneurs, or anyone with skeletons in their financial closet, the pardon sends a mixed but powerful signal. If you can build enough support, tell your story loudly enough, and leverage your connections, even the harshest verdicts can sometimes be rewritten. As one Hollywood agent anonymously quipped, "Scandal isn't the end anymore. Sometimes it's just another season." But what can viewers learn from all this? It's tempting to see the Chrisley saga as distant, tabloid fodder, totally removed from everyday life. But the lessons reach much further. First, it's a reminder that the law isn't always as black and white as we hope. For people without wealth or fame, the justice system can seem intimidating, impersonal, or even unfair. For those with resources or the right connections, there are often additional options, from high-powered lawyers to public relations blitzes, and in rare cases, presidential intervention. Second, the story highlights why transparency and skepticism are so important for anyone following public figures. The Chrisleys built their brand on the appearance of wholesome family values and self-made success, all while hiding a pattern of financial misdeeds. Experts say this is a cautionary tale. Audiences should remember that television, and especially reality television, rarely tells the full story, said Dr. Lila Morgan, a professor of media studies. Admire your favorite stars, but don't assume their on-screen life is the truth. Third, There's a practical takeaway for anyone managing their own finances or reputation. The temptation to cut corners, fudge numbers, or think you're too smart to get caught is universal, and always dangerous. The Chrisleys got away with their scheme for years because of clever paperwork and confidence, notes financial advisor Ray Suarez. But when the reckoning came, it was devastating. Even with a pardon, the damage to their credibility may take a lifetime to repair. For those facing legal or ethical dilemmas in their own lives, the advice is clear. Seek proper counsel, be honest with authorities, and resist shortcuts. True wealth, whether measured in money or reputation, comes from transparency and integrity, not from manufactured illusions or risky gambles. From a societal perspective, the Chrisleys' journey is a call for vigilance. Presidential pardons are powerful tools, but they require public oversight and debate to prevent abuse. If the system is to work for everyone, not just the famous, everyday citizens need to stay informed, ask questions, and hold leaders accountable. So what happens next for the Chrisleys? Will America embrace their second act, tuning in to watch their struggles and triumphs, or will audiences turn their backs, unconvinced that true repentance is possible on reality TV? Only time will tell. The ratings for their new show, the outcomes of any lingering lawsuits, and the public's appetite for forgiveness are all still to be determined. But one thing is certain, the Chrisley saga has changed the way we look at justice, celebrity, and the boundaries of second chances. As we close, it's worth circling back to the question at the heart of this story. Did the Chrisleys receive justice, or did money and fame buy their freedom? The answer isn't simple. On one hand, their convictions were backed by substantial evidence. Prosecutors, judges, and appeals courts all agreed they committed serious crimes. On the other, the pardon, though entirely legal, raises doubts about equal treatment under the law. It's a paradox embedded in the American story. We want both mercy and fairness, forgiveness and accountability. Ultimately, the Chrisleys' walk to freedom is possible only in a system full of contradiction, loopholes, and public spectacle. It's a reminder that justice, especially for the powerful, is often both a courtroom drama and a popularity contest. And here's a secret fact. Few realize that the Chrisleys' original show contract contained a morality clause intended to allow the network to fire them if convicted of a crime. But after their first arrest, a surge in ratings persuaded executives to keep the cameras rolling. In a way, the Chrisleys' greatest asset was never just their charisma or business savvy, but their ability to turn any scandal into a business opportunity. So, what should you do with this story? Stay skeptical. Pay attention to who gets mercy and who doesn't. Support transparency, real equality before the law, and leaders willing to protect it. And next time you see a reality TV persona promising the American dream, remember, not everything behind those perfect smiles is as it seems. If you found this story compelling, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more deep dives into justice, power, and the hidden stories beneath the headlines. What do you think? Is the Chrisley pardon a sign of necessary mercy or proof that celebrity still rules? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice is part